Okay, so the NRL Grand Final has just finished, and possibly one of the best games of rugby league I've ever seen. I think it ranks up there with the 2015 Grand Final. It was 8-6 at half time to Penrith, although midway through the second half, the Broncos have come to life. Ezra Mann scores a hat-trick. Reece Walsh has come to life, and it's 24-8 to Brisbane with about 20-25 minutes remaining. Jerome Luai's gone off with his shoulders packed in. He's gone off injured. And the momentum swing from the last 2 minutes of the first half into about 60 minutes swings to Brisbane. And then the last 20 or so minutes, absolutely ridiculous. Biggest comeback in Grand Final history. Bigger than the Melbourne Storm in 1999. Absolutely ridiculous game. Went down to the final seconds. Reece Walsh obviously pushing a pass and Sorensen intercepting, and that is it. But the game itself, the first half was just pure brutality. It was played at an insane pace. Insane. Absolutely. I've never seen an intensity level kept up consistently for that amount of time. Credit to the fitness of both sides. I think it did have an impact. There was that period right at the end of the first half, and Flegler scores his try, that, okay, you could say Brisbane could be quite happy with that half-time scoreline because they were looking a little bit, under the cosh until that last 5 minutes of the first half. Obviously, they carried that momentum on into the second half. Ezra Mann, I can't remember a player scoring a hat-trick in a grand final and being on the losing side. I think that could be a potential first. He set the game on fire. Reece Walsh had a bit of a quiet first half. He exploded into life in the second half. But game management. Brisbane had the game in the bag, and they just forgot their game management. I mean, Stephen Crichton, he scored in 4 consecutive grand finals, which isn't a fantastic achievement. And it was just one of them games where half time was close. It was 8-6. Full time is 26-24. My prediction that the team that scored first would go on to lose was looking like it was going to come true midway through the second half. I'm not surprised the final score is as close as it is. These were the top 2 teams in the league in the regular season. Another interesting thing, we've only seen 1-6 again. We've seen very few penalties. Very few penalties. Both captains' challenges were unsuccessful. But very few penalties. I think I can count on one hand the amount of penalties in the game. So discipline from both sides was really good. I think Adam G, the referee, just allowed the game to flow naturally without overly impacting it. There were a couple of head contacts that you could have argued in the regular season they're going to be sin binnings. Whether the NRL basically said, let's take a bit more of a hands-off approach when it comes to refereeing the grand final, we can debate that. But the intensity level and the speed of the game from minute 1 to minute 80 was more intense than Origin. The only other grand final I have watched which I could compare to this is the 2015 grand final, and that went to Golden Point. This ranks up there with that final. But Penrith have made history, first team in the modern era to win 3 premierships in a row, not counting obviously the Melbourne Storm era, which salary cap impacted. A team hasn't done this since Parramatta in the early 80s. Now, can Penrith do 4 in a row? Now, I was a bit sceptical Penrith could do 3 in a row at the start of the season following their World Club Challenge defeat to St Helens. And they haven't won in the rain all season. So, had there been rain, I think that could have undone Penrith tonight. It was a very hot evening, very warm, very humid, about 30 degrees Celsius at kickoff. I think that's had a bearing on the game. I think, you could definitely argue Penrith are all over the place at the beginning of the second half. They're looking tired. They're looking a little bit, shell-shocked. But then Brisbane didn't kill them off. Their game management let them down. They could have just played a little bit more conservative. They're still trying to just, overplay a little bit. But a fantastic grand final. literally almost went down to the final minutes. I mean, Cleary's winning try. He's carried the team on his back in the last 20 minutes. He's stepped up. Obviously, Jerome Luai going off with his shoulder injury. I wouldn't be surprised if that requires off-season surgery. That had an impact. I think when Luai goes off, because he'd been struggling most of the game, I think that was actually impacting Penrith defensively, basically carrying a wounded player. Cogger comes on, and I think that is also a key turning point. Is Luai going off, Cogger coming on? You've got a guy who's fresh in the halves. I think that took a little bit of pressure off Cleary, but Reynolds has had a good game. I mean, he made a few little errors there. Reece Walsh, I think he's overplayed a little bit at times, but first half he was quiet. Second half he comes to life. Ezra Mam, I can't think, as I say, of a player scoring a hat trick and being on the losing side. That's got to be a punch in the guts. But this Brisbane side, I think they're here to stay in the top 8. I think they're going to be contending for more grand finals and more premierships down the line. They had a tough learning curve last year. It was a tough final defeat to take from a winning position, but they will learn from this. But where they were a handful of years ago with the wooden spoon, they've had a massive turnaround very, very quickly. They've rebuilt that team. They've rebuilt the confidence. But this is their first season back in finals football since 2019. This was a learning season for the side, very limited. They only had 2 players of any grand final experience, whereas Penrith, they do this every year now. How long can the Penrith juggernaut last? Because they're going to have some key players leave, like Stephen Crichton, for next year. So player turnover, they've weathered that. Can Penrith, do 4 in a row? And can Brisbane bounce back and make another grand final within the next couple of years? That's the question. But for me, for now, thank you very much for watching. Place your thoughts on the grand final in the comment section below, and I will have some more content for you very, very soon.